A big thank you for joining me. I've got James Davis, ex-C-level operations, ex-PAX8 with me. He's the TSP Advisory CEO, helps hundreds of MSPs all around the globe, but focused on the APAC region. And he's here today talking about partnerships that go wrong. We're talking humans, just the human side, no tech today. It's a really good conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did having it. And don't forget to hang around until the end when we pull out a question from the Reddit forums and he tackles that for you in the What Would You Do section. Enjoy. Hello and a very warm welcome to the inaugural episode of It's Always the Human. This show is going to be all about moving away slightly from the tech and talking about the sort of the human issues that affect both MSPs and tech vendors and the channel space that we live in. So we're going to have some great conversations. A quick shout out before we get going to usecure, who turn human risk into human strength with security awareness training that actually works. Now, on to my first guest. I'm so glad that James totally agreed straight away to come onto the show and be our first guest. This is James Davis from TSP Advisory. Most of you in the space will probably be familiar with his work. I think you've got to be the longest serving MSP expert, I'd say, in the space, certainly in the APAC region, ex-PAX8, and have been there, done it, and are helping MSPs in the trenches daily. So I spoke to you once before on a podcast, and it was brilliant, just full of like soundbiteable that I'm putting all the pressure on you now, James. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back. I must have done okay if you get me on the first episode, so I better live up to the pressure.
Definitely, yeah. You need to knock this one out of the park. No pressure at all. James, this is going to be one about. I was looking at some of your background, and you have a lot of experience when it comes to partnerships that go south. Now, I think we've probably all got a story about times when perhaps things haven't gone as planned. And this show, like I say, it's about the humans, not the tech. So I thought we'd dive into a story. Where should we start? Where do you want to go with this?
Oh, let's start with me. I've had plenty of experience from my side, personally, from running businesses and then being involved with the tech partners. But what better place to start than my own stuff up? And basically, to give everyone a rundown, part of my history, I actually came from the gardening industry and the trade services.
It's a natural path, right? I mean, that's what we like to do, really. Standard way into the tech space.
Yeah, we just clean crap up. Like, let's be honest, that's what we do.
There are similarities, actually. Yeah,
it's just a little more dangerous doing gardening, a bit harder physical work, but less mental strain. But basically, in 2012, I got sick of working in the MSP space as an account manager. I started to get bored, and I started up a trade services business. Originally started with one partner and then started to grow, and then I had this vision of expanding out from not just gardening to have tradies around like carpentry and cleaning and painting and fencing, like you name it. I was going to build this bigger thing. And
what was the appeal of that space? I would never, if I hadn't have read it, I wouldn't have believed it of you. I just assumed, it was going to be sort of tech background all the way. What was it that appealed to you about that?
So it goes way back when I was younger. When I was in like 1920, I moved over to Germany and had to work illegally on a caravan park because I couldn't get a working visa. And so I did grounds and facility management. I found I was quite good at it. And then I came back to Australia. I tried to find work in that space, and all the tradies were quite useless. So I thought, well, if these Muppets can do it, well, why can't I just start my own thing? So that was at like 2021. Did that, got myself burnt out. And so then I went into the MSP, ended up falling into the MSP space. And I learnt so much from that, like the sales side and the maturity that we were running at, that I was like, well, this is a super immature space. I'm actually a pretty good salesperson. I reckon I can build something pretty big here, because while there's a lot of good tradies, they're all sort of amateur when it came to the actual client experience. And I just thought I could jump back in and grow really quick and build a much bigger thing. And I did grow quick. We built that, sort of started with those 3 people in the first few months. So I got it up to over $1 million revenue in that sort of first 14 months. because there's
Wow.
such
And
a
so was
demand.
that, were you using, was that like, did you have like a recurring revenue model and stuff going on there then? Or you were using your MSP knowledge
I did.
to its best potential?
So my whole thought process was gardening and cleaning was the regular recurring income. So that was the basis. Like people understood it was really easy to sell, constantly there. And then from there you can upsell. Well, we do painting, we do this, we do that. There's so many opportunities then to like upsell and cross sell, and that proved right. Like doesn't sound like a lot to me now, but I hit like 31K in recurring revenue in those 14 months. And that's a lot when basically cleaning was like $80 an hour back then and $100 an hour sort of for gardening. So it's not just like MSP space where it's like 100 to 150 a seat. It's a huge, a much bigger lift to get to that sort of amount of revenue. But
That's seriously amazing. How on earth did you? So, what was your? How did you? Sorry, I need to go back to the beginning. How did you get out there then? And were you just picking up the phones, pounding the pavements? Like, how did you? Because that's really quite impressive.
I
Was it
worked.
just you?
Well, the growth was me and my strategy, and so like I was the one that was good at that. I worked out back then. It was all sort of still like physical driven, and the letterbox drops were the winners. And I realized, well, if I actually, everyone that did it was like did it really super cheap on flimsy paper, and it was black and white. I did it like strong, thick cardboard, like a takeout menu that you'd stick on the fridge. And in
So here's
colours,
a premium player comes along,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it worked. I could spend $4,000 on sort of a letterbox drop, and I knew I'd make 40 grand in margin every time that happened. So it started to
There's
become
not many MSPs that are able to do that at the moment with their campaigns.
No, because and I realized it was simple because people understood what they're getting. They had direct needs. They just needed to have the stuff in front of them. And it was still too early. It wasn't really like Facebook driven and so much digitally driven at that time. I wish I sort of knew what I knew now, and I could have added that flair even earlier. But even the experience around at that time, I was running my business off ConnectWise because there was nothing else to actually run a trade services business back then. So I had ticketing system and all of that from all my learning. So it's like that sort of stuff was super efficient. But that fast growth is what actually hurt because it was just growing and growing and growing in revenue. It's a very capital expenditure heavy business. It's not like an MSP where you buy a laptop and you buy some SaaS and away you go. You've got to buy tools, you've got to have vehicles, you've got to have trailers. And so cash flow was very tight as we were growing that fast. What was always the problem is the Christmas period. You get busy up to Christmas and then you get really quiet between sort of Christmas and sort of mid-January. So
So you have to kind of plan for that, I guess. When
Yeah.
you're looking at your overall year, you have to think, okay, it's going to be a dip, so we need to make sure we're making our money then. And I suppose staffing, that presents a problem with staffing as well, doesn't it?
yeah, and you couldn't do a lot of work in some trades either. Not just even if we could line up jobs ahead of time, like the whole MSP thing down here. A lot of people get quiet in that period because they don't sell ahead. Even if we sold ahead, we'd have to sell way ahead so that we could actually get the supplies because all the suppliers would shut in that period. So even if you wanted to work, you couldn't get what you needed to actually do the jobs. So there was a lot of those sort of challenges. And so that sort of, as we were ramping up, I was taking on more and more because I was driving the growth. I have to go to site because I was the most experienced gardener. I ended up hiring tradies. There was like the head of painting was I could really trust them, and they did a good job. And then
So you're hiring these people. You're actually hiring them. It's not sort of like not contractors or whatever. You actually got them as employees. You're building up the business, right? Okay.
because we were going the sort of antithesis of what's always happened because it would be normally subcontractors. And if you're relying on subcontractors, you had no control of when they were actually going to show up and do things. So we wanted to have, like my whole vision was to deliver end-to-end things as that client experience and drive higher premium work because we could control it. And was we could create more certainty when a lot of this space creates vagueness and uncertainty, and that's exactly the opposite of what everyone actually wants out of their tradies.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, sounds amazing so far. So, where did it go? How did you end up at TSP Advisory from there?
Because of that fast pace, we started to see the cracks. So, all of a sudden, we're a team of 14. We went from 3 people to 14 in that time. Obviously, a dispersed workforce with different skills and different things, and so there wasn't structure inside of the business. It all revolved around me as sort of the leader, and my business partners. We had set up what I thought was like clear roles, but as it grew, that's where we started to see the cracks form, and a lot of that was like one of the partners would only do their day job. They'd rock up, they'd go do gardening for 7 to 9 hours a day, and that's all they'd do. But they were supposed to be in charge of the back of house admin, doing all the invoicing and the finance side.
So how did you feel? I mean, I feel like I'm doing a Stephen Bartlett here. How did that make you feel? Like, back to your childhood. But seriously, what was your mindset at that time then? Well, I guess that was mega frustrating. I'm guessing you're probably putting in serious hours at this point.
Yeah, and I'm an idiot like most of us small business owners. And initially, I didn't think about it. It was more like, as a roadblock, how do we work around it? So my solution, being as immature as I was, because I was 25 at the time, I thought I'll just hire an admin person and get it solved. So
to fill the gap that person wasn't. Okay.
And so I thought, we'll just solve it and keep moving, because I was so focused on growth that I wasn't thinking of how to actually solve the problem. I was just moving it out, so I didn't really pick it up. The other owner he would jump in and do things, and he seemed useful at the time, but he was only diving in when he was told to go do something. And that's where initially I just didn't realise, because I was just so focused on doing what I'm doing. I'm not saying I was perfect at what I was doing either, because I was a young 25-year-old making it up as I went, just trying to get.
I think it's amazing. When I think of what I was doing at 25, I'm hats off to you. But yeah, I mean, do you think part of it was that you were just because you're so driven? Did you just you were just assuming that everyone else must have that same mindset? So you I guess it's a little bit of naivety, dare I say it, probably, that they must have that same headspace. They're not going to be, slacking. They can't be, because we're building this thing. Is that where that comes from? That trust, do you think?
Yeah, I trusted them and knew them. So that when one was a really good long-term mate, another one had been a work colleague and got on really well. So it was really that naivety of just assuming everyone was the same in terms of that drive to what we're achieving and what their work was. But especially reflecting back in the longer that time goes by, we just weren't aligned from the start. It was clear they wanted lifestyle, like just a job lifestyle thing, that they felt like they had a bit of flexibility, and just probably the 3 of us, and just rock up to jobs and have a bit of fun and then go home. Where I had a big vision of building this business. This is the type of mindset I was going in at the time. There's a massive franchise over here called Jim's, which has Jim's lawn mowing and all this other stuff. And my mind was like, I want to be as big as Jim's, but do better than them. And that they're like a $300 million a year business. And so I was thinking that sort of stuff, let alone I could see from having that workforce, I could build this whole development side after it, because I've got all the workforce, the suppliers, all that kind of stuff. That's the sort of what I was thinking about.
Yeah. And so there's obvious parallels here, isn't there, between the MSP space? But just to touch on a point you made there, then. So do you think it was I mean, at 25, I wouldn't have thought of this for a second, but do you think it was like the lack of sort of communicating the vision? Do you think that was it? Was it one of that? Because it's not the sort of thing you would do, is it, really? Sit down and, right, okay, this is our kind of, we've got our deck for the next 5 years and let's have a look at the KPIs and what have you. In that sort of environment, probably not. But do you think maybe that's one thing that you could have done differently, maybe, was the better communication of where you were going? Or do you think that it wouldn't have made any difference anyway?
I look back because I probably haven't thought about that because I tried to institute sort of that sort of planning, no, not to the depth of this, like how I think and act these days, but we had ongoing conversations. I'd share this sort of vision. Problem is, I probably didn't pick up the signs and they didn't say no. I think they liked the sound of it.
Yeah.
And so they were going, yeah, that's great. But the thing was, they were saying it was a great idea. They weren't saying they were going to do it to get there. And that was my my side of not picking up on that. And to be fair, like they weren't mature as well and didn't just say, no, that's not what we want. And so there was just like this assumption, because never just said I wasn't mature enough to either see the thing or just directly challenge them and go like, are you on board to do this? Because they clearly weren't. And it's not a failure of them. It was just that situation. And I think it was naivety on all of our parts.
Yeah.
And I ended up bearing the brunt initially, because that lead up, as it feels like a long time in duration, but when ultimately it was only like 14, 18 months of all of this. And the last sort of 10 weeks, this is when I started to really realize there was just a point where I just woke up one day. I think it was just, basically I woke up one day and I realized I'd been doing 100 hours straight, plus for 10 weeks straight. So
right.
I was on the tools, slogging my guts out. I was having to go do all the finance stuff, all the quoting. I had to deal with the people issues. And I was just like one morning at like 3 a.m. when I was at our little warehouse that we had, I'm like, I'm done. Like this,
just like an epiphany of like, it all got too much. Were there signs? Do you think there were signs? Like, was it sort of niggling at you? Were you sort of ignoring it? Do you think, or was it just literally like, okay, hang on a minute, I've just stopped and looked around and gone, this is just completely imbalanced?
I don't think it was niggling at me, because it was the drive that overrun it. I had a goal and I was just going to get to that goal, and being younger and not having the thought process to stop and think and what am I actually doing to get there? Is it worth it? I committed to it, so I'll get it, and that was why I drove myself into the ground. It's not, we all as small business owners do long hours, but 100 plus is ridiculous. Let alone have to be on the tools for like 10 hours a day and then do everything else. That was like January, February, December kind of thing. So it was bloody hot too. So I like really wore myself out.
Physically and mentally.
Yeah, both. Yeah. And it just hit me, and I realized I needed to get out. I was done. I just realized how futile it was, that I couldn't change, because at that point it would have to be, I needed to kick them out of the business and take it on. And then I stopped and thought, well, that's not actually going to change the situation, because I'm still going to have to slog the guts out because I didn't have that sort of leadership team. And then I thought about the flip side as well. I'm like, well, if I'm not there, it's going to fall apart. But what helped me make the decision, apart from I needed to stop, like I was done. I thought about, like, I had like 11 employees. So what was the best? What was the best sort of thing for them? And I realized, well, going through a fight in general wasn't going to help them. And even though the business would fall apart, they'd have time to do something and see what was going on and go get another job while all of that was happening. So I decided, well, I'll just pull out, give the shares to the guys, and they could do whatever they wanted to the business. While
What was their reaction then? What was so your partner's in the business? Then were there any conversations sort of before, or was it just a straight like this has got to stop and this is how it's going, or did you actually sort of think about how you can make it work? Or
No, I because I made my mind up.
Yeah.
I just sat them down and just said, look, I've burnt myself out doing all of this long hours. I don't even know if you realised how much I was doing, and I'm done. My health is getting impacted. I need to step away because I'll just drive myself into the ground and kill myself. So,
how did that feel? How were the sort of the symptoms of burnout as something I'm always sort of conscious of? I mean, we all do long hours and stuff, and I know there's an element of it as well. I've been learning recently, actually at a MSP peer group. We had Chris Cook at Ethicai came along, and he was talking about the working genius, sort of being in your zones of genius. And I realised very much now that, I can do a lot of creative work, love it, but then if you got me on the ops side and I'm slogging at that, yes, that's where I'm going to see burnout. So how did it feel for you? Because you were doing everything there from the sounds of things.
I was completely drained of physical and mental energy at that point. I wasn't thinking straight. It was a constant stress that was going. So that was just, starting to burn into me that stress was normal as well. And I wasn't sleeping very well. It was always having to hyperfixate on things into the business. And then it would just be the physical energy of having to drag myself up and get out of bed and do it. And I don't throw the burnout card out easy because I think it's used too much. Like just because you're a little tired, you aren't burnt out.
Yes.
It's like there is proper burnt out. I probably should have gotten a lot more help because it took me years to recover. I think
I was going to ask you that actually. Yeah, that's often you hear that a lot, and that's the case for you.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever fully recovered because it's probably a good thing. But I feel like I've still got that internal drive in the way that I work, but I'll get like alarm bells off, like the body will give me signs that I'm going too far and I need to push back. So I find that challenging because I never feel like I'm giving 100%. And so it clashes.
Actually, you are of what you should be, 100% of your actual, what you should be offering, your deliverable, it probably isn't it?
It is, but it's like my brain, like the brain and my thought patterns don't see it like that. So it affects me that way still, even though it's like the body protecting me from it. I've never properly, I think, mentally recovered from all of that situation.
Yeah. That's a powerful message, isn't it, for people to take on board? We hear it all the time. Obviously, you've got to be so careful of this, but I think it's one of those things that does creep up on you before you know it. And listen, obviously, as you've been talking, I'm just thinking there's loads of parallels here with obviously the MSP space, and I know you're working with MSPs every day, so you're probably seeing sort of similar occurrences. Where do you think the land lies at the moment in terms of people you're working with and things? Do you see some of these things happening as well, like mismatches in partnerships? I know I definitely do. I don't know whether it's the same for you.
I'd say the majority of partnerships don't work. Honestly, like in my experience, I've broken up 12.
What's the advice then? Just do everything on your own.
Honestly, yes. Generally, I'd say this is you've got to learn and be mature first before you go into partnerships. If I look back on like my experience, we would have had better conversations in the first place and had alignment. We would have never joined up because it was misaligned from the start. It was never going to work. So we could have avoided all of that, could have kept friendships and all of that by just not doing it. Whereas we all are naive and we go, well, more hands make lighter work. But it actually doesn't, because we don't understand enough about business. Like some of the mistakes I made, I see a lot of parallels. You get like 3 business owners, they all think, we all default to everyone has a fair voice, paid the same, and all of it, that in itself is a recipe for disaster, because your day-to-day jobs, people are valued at different rates by their job. Like, it's as simple as that. Making decisions by a committee strangle strangle the company. I see that time and time again from those sort of immature business owners. And then that misalignment, I have seen stuff as extreme as me in different ways in this space, but often it's not as extreme. It really just is over time. If you say there's 3 business owners like me, it'll be one that just keeps learning. So it's not that the other one, the other 2 are getting lazier and aren't doing what they're supposed to do. It's actually, no, they're the same. It's just you've outgrown them. That one person has outgrown them because they're the ones that are interested in learning, and they keep driving for something different. And that's that mindset difference, that misalignment on strategy. And most small business owners just want a lifestyle job. And so if you don't want a lifestyle job, you really need to be strategic about who you partner with. Like I've had other business partnerships. So C-level operations was my next one. So it took many years. I finished up in the ring-ins start of 2014. My next partnership was in 2020. So it took like that 6 years to sort of recover and go, actually, I would do a partnership. I even, when I went back to the MSP that I worked for to be their general manager, the owner, Andrew, spoke to me initially about, let's think about equity in the future. And I shut that off because I just didn't want to have a business partner. I was happy to be responsible. You pay me for the job that I'm doing and I'll do very well. I just didn't even want to think about that. I'm glad.
Why is that the equity? So like the equity framed it differently for you then? As soon as someone said equity, you just thought, okay, this becomes something else then?
Yeah. To me, it was going back to that business partnership.
Yeah.
I wasn't mature enough to realise, well, equity is just shares. It's not even real ownership. It's just shares.
Exactly, yeah. But obviously, because of your experiences, it's kind of alarm bells are going off and you're thinking, okay, that's not... How do you see it tend to play out then in terms of when you see this mismatch in sort of the, I guess, aspiration and the drive and stuff in MSP owners? How do you see it play out? I mean, can you think of an example maybe where you don't have to name anyone, obviously, but like, what do people do? How do they get around this? Is it a case just leave the business or recruit new or start off? Typically,
if it's not like the extreme like mine, which most often it's not, it's usually that drift over time. It's over years and years and years of drift. It's like most of the partnerships I've come to, they've either had a silent partner that's like an accountant or some external party that got shares magically in a fairly substantial chunk.
Where can I get some of those, James? May I ask you?
I would love that. I don't know how these accountants have wrangled it, but there's like this whole generation where there's accountants owning like 40% of these businesses and have done nothing for it ever.
Beautiful.
And so often I come in and go, why do you even have this person? They're doing nothing for you. They're actually a leech. So that's one way, just that naivety again of thinking, well, if I've got this accountant, they're going to help me and all of this, but they're just leeching off you.
You know what it is? It's because it's scary doing business on your own, isn't it? Yeah. It's very easy just to think, oh, someone else is there with me. Okay, great. Yep. Well, that really is just mentally someone else is there. I'm not on my own.
Yep.
And so you're a bit inclined to sort of give them more than perhaps they should. Or should deserve.
Very, very much so. But then the other one is like you'll often see like there'll be some sort of sales owner. There'll be someone from like the finance ops background and like the technical guy. That's usually they fall into that sort of business, and that logically makes sense. Well, all of a sudden we own each part of the business. There's an owner in each, so we'll go big. But the problem is most small business owners are just doing it as a job, and so. What happens over time, there'll be some excitement, they'll start to find some legs over the first sort of 3 years, and then they just get into normal business life as business as usual. And it's usually like year 7 where most people have that awakening to go, oh, I'm not doing business properly, I'll start going looking, and they've been to events or they've started to join a peer group. And they stick their head up.
Been inspired by something. Yeah.
And there'll be that one owner that like really thrives from learning, and then all of a sudden they're not just peers. All of a sudden they've taken one step forward, and you can sort of put up with that because you've got good workers and doing that, then you go the next step forward and the next step forward, but you're all earning the same amount. And it's usually that trigger to go, I can see this bigger, I can see this, but anytime I move forward, we're getting paid the same, and I could hire someone to do their job at this point. And that's that.
Yeah, what do you do in that scenario then? I mean...
Well, have to have an honest conversation. The sitting down and going, are we aligned or not? And then what are we going to do about it? That's the mature thing. If we can have that decision, I've seen that happen, and some of those owners that aren't being owners, they're just doing the job, and they've got shares and they're named as directors. When you have that conversation, they can see it, and then they'll work something out. There are generally good people here, but the longer that you go on it, then it starts to become a problem, especially if that owner that's growing, they start making the business run better. That conversation can happen when we're running at 6% at industry average EBITDA, and we're not doing so good, because it's well, yeah, this isn't really working, is it? But as soon as you get that one owner that's raced ahead and turned it into that high-performing partner that's making 20% EBITDA, there's a lot of money there. So why would I give this up?
Less likely to let it go. Yeah.
But that's when the friction starts happening. So the longer that goes on, there's more pressure on the other owners as well to go, I can't leave, I'm trapped, but I don't actually want to be here. Now they're expecting all of this stuff from me. And that's when it can go really bad. And most of the, probably 50%, I'd say, of the partners I've worked with that have had those sort of business partnerships in that position, I've had to be the one outside person and go, this is how you run. This is best practice. I don't care about feelings. If you're going to operate at this, you need to do X, Y, Z and do this. And it forces...
You'll sit them down, will you? Is this like a meeting? You'll just literally sit them down together and sort of lay this out on the line. And how does it? What's the mood in camp when you do that in the room? I can't imagine you're the most popular person in town.
It's delicate. Firstly, it's usually I'm having to have the one-on-one conversations.
Yeah.
Go,
okay.
You're not pulling your weight, or you need to do X, Y, Z. I'm expecting you to do this. You guys have brought me in to do this kind of thing, and have the open conversations of, do you even want to be here? What do you want to actually do? Why?
So you sort of prime everyone first, and then it's a case of, okay, now let's bring everyone together. Now they've been sort of warmed to the idea.
And most of the time, I've had a few times where that owner that isn't moving forward and feeling trapped, they don't want to be there. They want to go do something else in life, and being able to say, well, the other person can buy you out. They don't realize that's an option. And then they go, oh, okay. And then unless they're super fractured, which doesn't really happen, because most people, again, are good people. It's just the situation. They can go to the other owner and go, let's work something out. How are we going to... How can I exit? How can you run with it? And most of the time, probably 9 times out of 10, they work something out. The owner doing the growth probably feels like they're overpaying to get rid of them. But if they're any good, they're going to make way more money over the long term anyway. It's just that at that point in time. I've had a few, not many, where they've just gone, well, let's just close the business and go our own ways, and you can go start your own, but we'll just disintegrate
that extreme.
it.
Okay.
Because that was the only way to do it. But most of the time, it'll be ending up the owner that wants to be there and are growing, they'll buy the others out and make it work. I've seen a few times where people have gone my way and gone, no, you can buy me out, see you later. You can have it, don't care. Or
I'm just done now, or I've got total belief that I can stand this up again in no time.
And so there's lots of different ways that can happen, but it needs to have the actual conversation about it. This is the problem. I'd say most people, being small business owners, they don't confront this problem. We obviously don't identify it early enough. I'm clearly guilty of that. I just did it in a way faster time than most partnerships do it.
That's because you had some insane growth plans at a very young age. that's
Some very
kind of
clever.
understandable in that scenario. Yeah, most of the people I talk to about this sort of stuff don't tend to fall into that age bracket, to be fair. But are you? I'm interested to know, actually, are you seeing, is this more of an issue now? Because last time we spoke, we got some really cool sound bites out of you that was basically like transform or die and stuff like that, because MSPs need to, there's so much change happening, isn't there? When we don't need to dive into all the tech and stuff. I think everyone knows what it is, but the role of an MSP is evolving so much. Does that mean that you're just seeing an increase in this mismatch between people who sort of are ready to run with it in the team and those who just don't want to?
I have seen a few different things. What's actually interesting...
Sounds like there's something juicy in there. I can tell by your voice there's some juicy stuff coming.
There's a few different things. So let's... the family succession is a good one. I've been involved with a couple of those, and they've gone very different ways. So there's two ones that stick in my head that were fairly similar. They both had an older dad in their 60s, been doing the MSP for nearly 30 years, built a better than average business, had some kids, had some leaders ready to go, and they had the thought of succession, like they wanted to set up the family to keep going, keep the business going. Very noble, wanting that. Both of them, we worked out clear plans of what's going to happen, kept improving the business while we went, and one of the dads stuck to that plan and got his buyout, and made money, did the transition, happy days. The other one,
okay, I can guess where this is going. Yeah, I quite like it though.
Yeah, the other one. All of a sudden, we're making more money than we ever have. No, I don't think I'll leave now because now I can make money.
Okay.
So he's just pissed off their leaders, everything, and come back to not do that transition and change his mind. And those sort of situations are easily avoided. Clearly, you follow a plan, do what you say, and there won't be so many issues. So that's one thing that's happening. The other thing I'm seeing is a lot of the owners trying to hand it off to their sort of 2IC that they've had, and same sort of things. Get a bit greedy if the 2IC runs with it and makes more money, so they don't really want to.
Sorry, the what? The 2IC? Did you say?
Yeah. So second in charge.
Okay. Sorry, right. I got you. I didn't know the acronym. Sorry.
I keep forgetting I'm Australian.
Okay, right. Got it. No, it's probably just me. Don't worry. Everyone's probably thinking, why is he asking that? Yeah.
And so they're doing those sort of transitions, fair deals, unfair deals in that space. And there will be I don't think we're quite there yet, but those sort of ownership teams are going to start having those issues around one owner's way older that wants to exit. They don't have enough money. The business isn't worth that much, and the expectations are really going to drift around expectations of the older owner going, I think I'm worth millions. Why aren't you buying me out for millions? I think we're going to see
how does that play out? Because that's a really common thing, isn't it? That people don't want to get to the point of like, okay, let's value the business. Oh, actually, I haven't got standardized processes. Oh, half my revenue isn't recurring, and all those things that contribute to value. And then you're in a position where you really want to go, and the other person's ready to grow. How do you do that? You have to start getting the business in shape anyway, or just how?
Well, you should be. Any business should be getting in shape, but the problem is a lot of them don't have time.
Yeah.
If you're running so thin on their margins and profit, you've got one owner that wants to exit, everyone's not really doing crash hot financially. Money becomes a much bigger deal. The survival instincts, it creates that entitlement, even though generally people aren't that entitled in this space. They usually sacrifice a lot more than they take, but these situations create a lot more of that, which they're gonna need help, or they're gonna have to work through it and just sell the whole business and then start again, or there's lots of situations that are gonna come out of this, which it's going to be interesting times, all while the world's changing around us. So our business models aren't even stable. our clients aren't stable, it's probably the worst time to be going through this kind of stuff, but it's the perfect storm.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, there's certain things you can do to sort of, I suppose, to mitigate it. Like we sort of touched on there, I suppose, like, communicating exactly what your vision is and keeping a really sharp eye. Hopefully, listening to this will make people think, okay, are there any signs that maybe we're not aligned, and to catch it early will probably help. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm assuming everyone's been to Reddit/MSP. That's kind of where there's hundreds of thousands of MSPs all chatting about stuff, and it can get pretty, I don't know, it's not the nicest place to be sometimes. It's a bit of the Wild West. But this question was an interesting one. So a software vendor performs an upgrade that breaks a client's critical application. The vendor blames your infrastructure. You work around the clock, rebuild the server, fix everything, and keep the client informed throughout. The next day, the client thanks you for your hard work and then fires you in the same email. They're keeping the vendor. What would you do?
The joys of this. Been through this a few different times in different ways. We've got to get better. We've got to be on the front foot. Once you're in this situation, it's very difficult. But I'd go straight to the client and go, we need to sit down and actually properly talk. Whether you can get that meeting or not is always a 50-50, but often you can save that client by sitting down and working through it. If you already had a decent relationship, but if they've sacked you, there's something else that's gone on. We all know that clients just don't move for one incident. It's been a build-up. So there's been other things that have gone on, and this has just been a easy catalyst to say, no, we're done. But to actually prevent this sort of stuff happening, there's a few things. First, we need to better educate our clients around shared responsibility and who owns what. Through those changes, if we've got the right maturity and we've got change control and we show that we do all of this different stuff, it's very easy then that these sort of third parties then look like cowboys like they are. So you can see very clearly where the problems are, because if we didn't know there was an update, well, they would have known, because with proper process, we would have been communicating to the clients that this was going to happen. And the rollback.
So they're used to that way of working, basically. That's the thing. And you'd have presented a policy up front, basically, when you started working with them or at reviews. This is how we work.
Yep. And this is where we also need to look at better insurances, because everyone gets excited about cyber insurance, but we don't talk about those business continuity insurances. And I'm completely blanking on the right terminology for this, but the client actually has risk with these kinds of things, whether it's us, whether it's their technology third-party vendors, whether it's Microsoft. They need to protect themselves if there's major technology outages and it impacts their business, that they're going to survive through it. But that takes a mature tech partner to actually tell them that there's these risks, and the average partner out there gives our clients false promises, whether it's subconscious or conscious.
This is the shared responsibility stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
But we, for a long time, the traditional MSPs are basically sold on, well, if you pay us our monthly fee, we've got you covered for everything. And we might have.
How many strap lines have you seen that say that? Yeah, we've got you. We've got it covered
all the time.
Blanket. Yeah.
We've got you protected. All of these false 100% statements that clients latch onto, and we can't. We don't control the third parties. We don't control the SaaS platforms. We don't control the internet. There's all these things that we don't control. But that's the false promise that we give to our clients. So a lot of us set ourselves up to get this put back on us. And so you avoid this by being mature in the first place.
I love that. Thanks, James. That's a really good way of putting it. And I thought that's probably the route you're going to go down, actually, that it's not really one you can recover at that point. I mean, maybe you can, but it's not. It's all about really stopping it ahead of time, isn't it?
Yeah. Being proactive, not reactive. But the industry still chooses to be reactive. It's a choice at this point.
Yeah, this is very true. This is very true. Listen, it's been a great chat. I've got a quick question for you before you go. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'd end up being a CEO in something different, to be honest. I think I'm at that point in my career and all the experience that I've got that I'd go do something little different. And
Any particular
Just learn
verticals
something.
appeal to you? Not going back to the green fingers.
The whole SaaS space feels really nice. No responsibilities. Just take some,
Which SaaS
funding.
space are you on about?
You just push it all on the
Maybe for you
MSPs.
outside.
You just push it all on the MSPs.
Well, of course, yeah, that's easy when you do that, isn't it? Yeah.
But I'd look at something a lot less complicated. I think everyone forgets how complicated our tech partner businesses are, and they're only getting more complicated. And until we sort of split between what's sort of more like the tradey level stuff and just let that level do that, and then the professionalized level, we actually professionalize and act at that level. We're so complicated that it's just so mentally burdensome, let alone all the day-to-day stuff we need to do. There's a reason why most partners are struggling, and we're going the wrong way we're trying to overly simplify super complex things without actually understanding the complexity behind them. And that's why we've got so much liability behind us. And we're a lot... I don't want to downplay what I'm about to say from the other side, but we're a lot more like healthcare. We're like as close to healthcare as you can without the life and death. And people just don't appreciate that. And our clients will never appreciate it. They'll never fully understand it, but the industry doesn't even appreciate that. We've got all these different layers from GP to all the specialists. There's all these complexities. Everything that we touch is its own speciality that has complexity, but we try and drive it down to commodity level, and it just doesn't exist.
I mean, my temptation now is just to keep going deeper and deeper and take that off down another tangent. James, if someone's interested in these themes, and you do, I mean, you put out some great materials and stuff, where should they go to dive in some more with your stuff, your thoughts, opinions? What are you working on these days?
You can follow me on LinkedIn if you don't already, and you can hear my rants and ramblings. And I've got a YouTube page as well. You just look up the TSP Advisory, and you can. If you're not sick of hearing me now, you can keep watching me, and maybe you've got insomnia, and that will help.
Absolutely not.
Otherwise, I've been helping partner up with an organisation called Channel Gurus. All the operational practices and all the high-level stuff they do with the leading partners, I'm making it much more accessible through Channel Gurus. So you can do a maturity assessment to understand where you're at across all the areas of your business. I've got all these operational practices that scale from the big guys down to show what good looks like, so that you can actually stop reinventing the wheel for operational practices. Yeah. Even the new stuff that we're doing around system integration and AI, none of that's new. There's already business practices from other parts of our industry or other industries that there's right ways to do all of this. So rather than reinventing the wheel and listening to people on the Reddit that don't actually know what they're doing, you can skip ahead and grab all those resources and education to implement it on your business and focus on your clients, because that's the main thing that no one's doing. They're getting sucked into listening to the industry. It's the blind leading the blind, because all the really good partners that are really succeeding aren't sitting on Reddit. They're not going to a lot of the events. They're not sharing what they're doing because they're so busy succeeding. And we've got this circle of crap advice, outdated advice, and you've got to break that cycle. And so that's why I'm trying to help. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but proofs with the types of partners that I work with that I know what's contemporary and what's working, and being able to take that sort of advice and apply it to your business helps. And I just want to see much better outcomes for the partners.
Yeah, and there's an awful lot of advice out there, isn't there? And to your point, it's absolutely eye-opening. I found that in the various roles I've worked in terms of you think you know who everyone is because you go to the events, and then you start reaching out to others, and it's like, oh, there's a whole world out there. We are literally just this little echo chamber. But there's an awful lot of obviously experts and gurus and stuff out there. So I guess in terms of what differentiates you, then, I mean, I suppose you is the sort of the more modern techniques? How would you differentiate yourself from the sort of the other? Because there's so many obviously business growth experts. Anyone who's exited is kind of pretty much doing that now.
It's probably because I'm forward thinking. I'm not. I always feel arrogant talking about this because I don't necessarily.
Go on, this is all right. I'll give you 30 seconds to do pure arrogance.
Pure arrogance. All right, I'll live up to my name. It's the fact that I'm not trying to operate a MSP like 2010, where most of the thought leadership is that way. It's the fact that, I talk about the technology solutions partners. It's the business of the future to meet the modern client needs. Baby boomers are exiting. What we delivered for them 5, 10, 20 years ago isn't what's important moving forward. We're getting more millennial business owners that make completely different decisions, that are more savvy, probably know more than half your techs. And so if you're not meeting their needs, you don't really have a valuable business and service. And especially as the baby boomers are really exiting in droves over the next 5 years, you've got to look forward to the future of not just now, but what does it look like in 2 to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? And that's not what we've done in the past. And so that's what's always driven me to stay loud, because I don't actually like being the center of attention, but I felt like I've needed to step up and actually cut through status quo, because it's quite clear the status quo is falling apart and tanking, and we need to transform. And so that's what I bring, is the actual experience of all the operational areas of the business, not just a silo. I don't just do sales and flog you and go, yeah, we can grow your business. I grew a vendor and let's, I'll grow you as well. It's actually, no, I've been there in the trenches. I've run businesses and I've worked with these amazing partners that I know what works. And it's proven time and time again.
That's a beautiful way to sign off. James, I'm so glad it was you that kicked off the first episode of this series. So thanks so much for being here. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to chat. But in the meantime, thanks for all the contributions and wisdom. I'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All the best. Thanks, man.